Imagine your mind as a two-seat sports car. Who's driving? Your fast-thinking brain or your slow-thinking one? Now, this might sound like a peculiar question, but it's a fundamental concept in understanding how we think, make judgments, and decide. Our mind operates based on two systems. I know it's as if you have two drivers in your brain, each with its own way of navigating through the complex roadways of life. The first one, known as System 1, is like the impulsive, thrill-seeking driver. It's fast, intuitive, and emotional. Think of it as the one who likes to take the wheel when you're making quick decisions, like deciding to swerve to avoid an obstacle or responding to someone's comment without much thought. Now, let's meet the other driver, System 2. This one is the more cautious, analytical driver. It's slower, more deliberative, and more logical. System 2 takes over when you're solving a complex math problem, making a big life decision, or learning a new skill. It's the one that prefers to take its time, consider all options, and make well-thought-out decisions. These two systems continuously interact and influence our judgments and decision-making. Sometimes they work together, complementing each other, like two skilled co-drivers in a rally race. But at other times, they might be at odds, like two drivers arguing about the best route to take. It's important to understand that neither system is inherently better than the other. Both have their strengths and weaknesses, and both are necessary for different situations. However, it's crucial to be aware of which driver is in control at any given moment. Are you making a hasty decision based on your gut feeling? That's your System 1. Are you spending a lot of time contemplating a decision? That's your System 2 at work. So, are you letting your fast, impulsive driver take control or your slow, deliberate one? Think about it. Ever jump to conclusions without knowing the full story? We all have. Welcome to the world of heuristics and biases. Let's dive into the world of heuristics. These are mental shortcuts that our brains use to simplify decision-making. Imagine you're a baseball player and a ball is flying towards you. You don't have time to calculate its trajectory, you just know where to run. That's a heuristic in action. But it's not just about baseballs and trajectories. Heuristics are everywhere, helping us navigate a complex world quickly and efficiently. But as with most shortcuts, heuristics can lead us astray. They often involve focusing on one aspect of a complex problem and ignoring others. This can result in errors in judgment and decision-making. And this is where biases come into play. Biases are like the flip side of heuristics. They're systematic errors in thinking that affect the decisions and judgments we make. And there are many types of biases, but let's focus on two: confirmation bias and availability bias. Confirmation bias is our tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms our pre-existing beliefs or hypotheses. It's like having blinders on. We only see what we want to see, and we ignore anything that challenges our views. Availability bias, on the other hand, is our tendency to rely on immediate examples that come to mind when evaluating a specific topic, concept, method, or decision. The more easily something comes to mind, the more likely we are to think it's common or important. This can lead us to overestimate the likelihood of events that are memorable or dramatic, while underestimating the likelihood of more ordinary events. These biases can skew our perception of reality and lead us to make errors in judgment. But by being aware of them, we can take steps to mitigate their effects. Next time you make a snap judgment, remember, your brain might just be taking a shortcut. Confidence is good. Overconfidence, not so much. And sometimes what you see isn't all there is. Let's dive into the deep end of overconfidence. Imagine you're at a trivia night and you're absolutely sure of an answer. You're brimming with confidence, ready to stake your reputation on it. But alas, you're wrong. This is the overconfidence effect, a psychological bias where our confidence in our judgments surpasses the reality of our accuracy. We're like the hare in Aesop's fable, overestimating our abilities or knowledge, leading to unexpected setbacks. But why does this happen? It's because our mind tends to focus on what it knows and discards what it doesn't. This is where the concept of what you see is all there is, or Wiziati, comes into play. Coined by Daniel Kahneman, Wiziati is our brain's tendency to rely solely on the information it has at hand, ignoring what it doesn't know or what's unseen. We create a coherent story based on what we see, even if it's just a fraction of the whole picture. Imagine you're asked to judge a person's character based on a single action. You might label them as kind or rude, completely disregarding the fact that there's much more to them than that isolated event. That's Wizziati in action. Our brain loves simplicity and coherence, so much so that it often overlooks the complexity and depth of reality. So, how do we combat these cognitive biases? Firstly, by being aware of them. Recognize that your confidence might not always be rooted in accuracy. Embrace humility and the possibility of being wrong. Secondly, challenge the Wizziati bias by consciously considering what you don't know, what's unseen, and what's left unsaid. Remember, the world is a complex place, and there's always more to it than meets the eye. Remember, confidence can be a double-edged sword, and sometimes the unseen matters just as much as the seen. When it comes to choices, are you more afraid of losing or excited about gaining? Turns out, most of us are wired to fear loss more. Let's delve into an interesting concept known as the prospect theory. This theory, proposed by Daniel Kahneman, suggests that people don't make decisions based on the final outcome. Instead, they make choices based on the potential value of losses and gains. So what does this mean? Imagine you're given two options. In the first, you stand to win $100, but there's a 50% chance you could lose it all. In the second, you're guaranteed to receive $50, no strings attached. Which would you choose? Many would opt for the sure thing, the sure gain of $50. This is because the fear of losing $100 feels more significant than the potential gain of the same amount. This is the essence of the prospect theory. But here's where it gets interesting. This fear of loss can often lead us to make irrational decisions. You see, we're so wired to avoid loss that we sometimes overlook the potential for gain. We might stick with a job we don't like because we're afraid of losing a steady income, even if there's a chance we could find something better. We might hold on to a poor investment because we can't bear the thought of selling at a loss, even if holding on might cost us more in the long run. The prospect theory tells us that our fear of loss is a powerful motivator, but it's not always a rational one. We need to recognize this bias in our decision-making process and strive to consider gains and losses equally. We need to understand that losses are a part of life, just as gains are. They're two sides of the same coin, and we can't have one without the other. So, next time you're weighing your options, remember to consider both gains and losses equally.